Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for an art talk with Cara Despain. Cara is a part of our exhibition, Fractured Landscapes, our current exhibition in the main gallery. It's a two-person exhibition with Emanuel Tovar, who's based in Guadalajara. Both artists use similar methods to create formal and performative work that carry diverse meanings and themes. Despain and Tovar both approach a variety of actions such as fire, video, photography, using materials including rock, carbon, sand, and literature to articulate the fragile beauty of the natural landscapes that are around us. The exhibition is funded by Funding Arts Broward, so we are so grateful, really thankful for them for supporting this exhibition. You're welcome to come and see the exhibition Tuesday through Sunday. We're noon until 5 p.m. I'm so sorry. We're 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tuesday through Friday, noon to 4 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. I really hope you can come. It's a beautiful exhibition. And after this talk that we're doing with Cara, we're going to be downstairs having a reception till 8 o'clock. So you can literally watch this and want more, get into your car and drive to the Art and Culture Center and have a drink with us. And we're gonna speak about some more aspects coming from this talk. Two quick things before. I just wanted to promote also in the other gallery is Cloning the Ghost with Javier Barrios. And we've got some events that are gonna be coming up for that. There's gonna be a book talk, an in-person conversation about the Orchid Thief. This is a great book about Florida history, about orchids, just so much. It's so interesting and it's inspired the show that's in that gallery. So I encourage you to read the book and join us for that conversation. There'll be a Zoom book club with the artist and then an in-person conversation that'll be following next night. So I am so excited to speak with Cara. I am a huge fan of Cara, just everything Cara. And I want to get into a little bit of a bio. Cara Despain is an artist working in film and video, sculpture, photography, and installation, addressing the social and political issues of the American West. Despain identifies the problematics of land use, territories and ownership, and climate change in order to visualize the Anthropocene. Her site-specific work is heavily involved in research and working directly in the field, often using environmental objects as source materials and mediums in her process. Despain's work in the exhibition stems from her recent expeditions through desert mountain climates and her residencies at Mana Contemporary Miami and Anderson Ranch, Colorado. She recently had a solo exhibition at the Southern Utah Museum of Art and is currently working on a public commission with Miami-Dade County Art in Public Places for the underlying project. She is based in Miami and Utah. Additionally, Cara participated in the 1984 Summer Olympics, receiving the silver. I'm so sorry, I can't even do it. That was my April Fool's joke.
I was like, well, where is this going? No, but that's true. Actually.
I couldn't even do it. In the 1984 Summer Olympics, receiving the silver in the 200-meter backstroke. In high school, she was voted most likely to be imprisoned for militant activism, and instead, she won the Miss Utah pageant in 1975 with her talent for playing musical water glasses.
How did you know?
How did I know? So
Mormon.
So that's my April Fools that I finally got to flush out of my system. What we're gonna do is talk about this like two-part talk that we're doing today, and in this part we're hoping to really kind of delve into this Cara Despain wormhole of research into Utah history, the landscape, mining, nuclear testing, just all of that interesting, rich history that really is very personal, also very political, and so we'll kind of stem into there. So
yeah,
are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right,
I'm ready to do that backstroke.
You're ready for the
Thanks for letting
backstroke.
everyone know that I'm a killer swimmer. It's actually why I live in Florida.
Why don't we, she's gonna take over the controls
Yeah.
here, and I just wanted to also give a shout out to Yvette Wasserman, who was helping us with our tech work today. We would be nowhere without our marketing team, so thank you to Yvette and to Leo also that's here, and Jackie, who's also helping us out as well. We have an amazing team here. Shall we just get started, and you can speak about some of the interesting background of landscape and how that's inspired your work.
So I kind of plug into landscape and the lineage of landscape as a way to talk about the sort of ongoing perceptions of the frontier and kind of the ongoing geopolitical issues that are still like very much upon us. So starting with the Romantics, we kind of go through into Western cinema. And I think that these still very much inhabit our psyche. And what's interesting about being like a freak that splits time between Utah and here is there's a whole different like way I move through landscape and portray it, because the trick still works. I can still like pull people in with these like romantic vistas and these cinematic images. And then I can be like, and then underneath that is all this crazy history that I do feel like has like a really real global implication. I get obsessive and I research and I go into rabbit holes on, one thing or one topic or one area, but I feel like there's like a larger picture that it all fits into. And in this case, it kind of frames the Anthropocene and the way that we treat land and kind of who we chased out, how we settled, what we're extracting, I think still says a lot about like who we are and what we're doing the world over.
I think it's like such an interesting, because the politics are still so prevalent, and there's still conversations about mining to this day, and land use and parks, if a park should be a park or should be public property. And I think it's just an interesting dynamic that you've taken all of this information from Cold War, and from these different sorts of sourcing materials to really connect with what's happening there now.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that we get so caught up in the view that we forget what's happening on the ground. Name that movie. I forgot to put a caption on this one. We'll see how we'll do our.
Put up in the comments if you know.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Not a classic old Western per se. There's John Ford standing there. So
fantastic. So that's Monument Valley.
Yes, all of these are Monument Valley, and I chose that because it's relevant to the piece that's in the show. But I also,
which you can actually see on our screen behind us. The backdrop, the piece backdrop. So
we're there, but we're not there.
Yeah.
Life is so meta now. The reason that I kind of like focused on Monument Valley is because I feel like it's sort of a perfect example of what I was just talking about. It's so iconic, whether or not you've been there, you've seen images of it on calendars, in films, on postcards, but that is part of the Navajo Nation. It's in Dinatah, and I think that people just have these expectations that they overlay onto it. They have these characters and these sort of like narratives, because even the way that like the West was portrayed in Western films, it didn't really exist that way. And certainly not for the long time that we suppose that it did when we're making those types of films or being entertained by them. The situation there is contamination, contaminated water, uranium mining, poverty. There's always another story that belies the romance. And I think it's easy to have it hide from us between the pretty pictures.
Yeah.
So this is actually a mine in Monument Valley. And when John Ford was shooting all those Westerns, by the way, he made lots and lots for decades in that area. The Vanadium Corporation and others were actively mining uranium for weapons development. Like that was happening while they were shooting.
At the same time.
Yes, in the 50s and 60s. So, and prospectors started coming even before that, kind of before the war even ended. So yeah, there's a lot of that we'll dig into.
Real stark juxtaposition between glamorizing and terrorizing.
Yes. And, it's not really like the past. There's so many uranium mines there that haven't been remediated properly. So that's what this is. It's a map of all the abandoned uranium mines or active on the Navajo Nation alone. And in the Colorado Plateau, which is, kind of a bigger area up into Utah and Colorado there are still lots and lots of old mine sites, including some in national parks.
And this information, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So you're literally going camping and it's near sites that have possible uranium leaks.
Yeah. I mean, not, like,
they probably have a sign that says maybe not here.
Yeah, some. It's pretty bad on the Navajo Nation because a lot of that stuff isn't marked.
Right.
There's one of the worst disasters with radiation of all time was at the Church Rock site, and that was like a tailings pond that leaked and created an absolute catastrophe.
Okay.
So that's a super fun site now, but none of that stuff has been properly remediated. That's why there's a lot of contaminated groundwater and drinking water there still.
Okay.
Which made the COVID-19 crisis worse there.
Oh my goodness.
For example.
Okay.
Yeah, like, sorry for the deep dive on every single thing,
we're
but
we're in it. That's why we're here.
trying to connect past and the present, I guess.
And you're finding this information at the EPA, like this, for example.
This particular image, but I've come to this from several different angles.
Okay.
Yeah, but I thought this was a good map. This is kind of relevant to the sign, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, so in the show, just behind the large scale piece is a uranium neon that's flashing uranium, and it's got a very lovely like ticking sound
when it flashes
to it, like a very, I don't want to say meditative, but like they're hauntingly meditative sound to it where it's clicking. So tell us about these source pieces you found.
So when there was, an appeal for people to go and prospect uranium to build weapons, first with the Manhattan Project, the prospecting for uranium was kind of kept under wraps. But after that, and as we entered the Cold War, there was, we wanted domestic uranium to come from the US so that we could like work up our stockpiling of weapons against the Soviets. Okay. So there was a sponsored government uranium boom that happened on the Colorado Plateau and in that area that I just showed you.
Okay.
So it became this like all American thing, like go get the uranium and get it. Like there was in Moab, Utah, there was like storefronts selling Geiger counters. It was very like, you can get rich too, but it was, the dangers were not totally known / not totally conveyed. So you had everybody from rich East Coast people coming out and flying over in helicopters to just regular people that had maybe been working in ranching or oil rigs or other kinds of mining in the region that wanted to like test their luck with that. So it started to come out in Popular Mechanics and stuff like that. You could see the uranium burger that was in Moab, Utah.
Amazing.
Boomtown at that time.
So it became like an opportunity for people to make money. And this was like the other relationship I had been thinking of gold, like a gold rush boom. Like this is a uranium rush of people going in there, but not knowing all the facts, right?
Very much, yeah.
Or some people knew the facts but weren't telling people the other facts, all of the facts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's still places that are contaminated from these types of activities or uranium middles. There's also a lot of miners that were never properly compensated that became really sick. The uranium miners really in the downwind community, which we can talk about maybe next, people that are affected by radiation or fallout it's come to include uranium miners, even though it was sort of like the beginning of the process.
Yeah.
But it took years and years for them to be compensated, and it still wasn't like adequate. So there's kind of like this perception, this kind of like Americana, and then under it, there's always something darker. And I feel like that's what represents that kind of iconic.
Why don't we switch to an exhibition view so people can see like an overhead, and because at least right now, right behind us, you can see, we stop share. You can at least see behind us here as I'm like, this is like a weather system. But these are topographical. Yep. So these are so these are all pieces that were made from missiles being dropped at different site locations.
Yeah, so they're actual like geographically accurate topographies of test sites and uranium sites
Okay,
that are
thank you
all
so much.
yes.
Thank
That
you.
are this is me looking in the mirror like night after night being like
Yeah.
all like Cold War weapons and mining, and I chose US and Soviet to kind of like fold it into the space race, which was very much a cover for weapons development during the Cold War.
There was some interesting, because you have a slide projection of the moon as well, and then I noticed that
Yeah.
one of these locations, oh, there it is. There it is.
Allow me.
I love this. So one of the spots is actually the moon. But
Yes,
you did
there's two
actually,
moonscapes,
and
yeah.
so it's a very interesting parallel between the two.
Yes.
Like looking at the moon as the slides that are coming, are from NASA.
Yeah.
That NASA took and then just released. That's from my understanding.
They're always releasing different moon ones.
Okay.
There are some other declassified videos that just got released like within the last 5 years.
Okay.
But that's a different story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's also Monument Valley.
Yeah.
And then one of the things that you had mentioned to me is that some of them really show a pocket,
Yes.
but then some of them that are really devastating, you don't see anything at all.
Yes, exactly. So let's see. So the Nevada test site, which is where most of the atomic weapons have been tested in the world, which is very close to where my mom grew up actually. And it was like 1,000 atmospheric tests and many more underground tests. And those are actually the ones that leave the craters. So in that case, you can see the craters from space. And one of those little topographies is the Nevada test site. You can see the divots. But the largest nuclear device that's ever been detonated, the Tsar Bomba that the Soviets tested, you can't see anything because it detonated in the air.
Oh my gosh.
If you look up pictures of it on the internet, it's horrifying. It was just this huge, fireball in the sky, but down below you, it didn't hit the ground.
Okay.
So I took I looked up the test site and I have that topography. It's just kind of an island in the subarctic area and you don't see anything, but that's where it happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So you did have photographs of like the actual explosion.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
amazing.
It's crazy how little
Mhm.
it exists in the public's kind of mind, but these things are just otherworldly, totally crazy, like militaristic endeavors that we've done for over half a century, and yet it's like they hide in plain sight.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
nuts.
show us if you could, like some of the propaganda images that were going on
Yeah.
around the same time. I love, there's this one image that you've shown. Just so you all know, if you follow Cara Despain on Instagram, you get to see a lot of these really great source images that she posts of different source materials. Yeah, here you see John Wayne on the set of the Conqueror, and
that's a Geiger counter in his hand.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but those are his kids, and they're actually measuring the levels of radiation. So this is in St. George, Utah.
Like bare chested.
Yeah.
Measuring.
Obviously they're being safe, but they're not corollary to right now. It's like they're washing the things, but they're not wearing any kind of protective equipment. This was downwind of one of the dirtiest tests that ever happened at the Nevada test site. Dirty Harry, they call it, nickname.
Okay.
And so during this film, they were running around in sand. There's sand dunes there. When they were shooting, they were throwing it in the actors' faces, and it was all irradiated. I mean, there was fallout all over. And later, about half of the cast and crew developed different weird cancers, and another kind of half of that died, including John Wayne, including the front man of all these iconic films.
Yeah.
So there's like a very real connection.
Wow.
That's an abandoned uranium mine.
Amazing. Just incredible.
So a little sidebar, because this video is being shown in town at a different place.
Mm-hmm.
So, because of what I just said, this is Monument Valley. They're mining uranium. John Wayne's there. And then I created a video where I erased his body out of it to kind of like get at some of those things.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is the source stuff you were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just flipping through, and then, but also the woman with the mushroom cloud.
Yeah.
It's incredible. These are That's an amazing,
Yeah.
I mean, it's an incredible sight to see something like this. One of the things I also want to mention is that you had, working with you, just one of the wonderful things is that you share your information so freely. So you were sending me this like Downwinders documentary that was just mind blowing, but there's just so much information there that you can get into and find out about.
Mhm.
And just the idea, just becoming more knowledgeable about how it impacted so many people. So,
Yeah. And one of the things, so I'm going to go back to this just for a second. So
Yeah.
the record that's in the show,
yeah, great. Yes.
there's two sides to it. The first side is oral histories and stories from downwinders in the Utah area that experienced fallout from the tests at the Nevada site. Some of them I got to talk to myself. Some of them I took from an archive at the University of Utah. And that's personal in the sense that my grandmother grew up in that area, and they were both downwinders. Luckily, they didn't become ill like so many people did.
Mhm.
But I felt like the people, everyone I talked to was like, felt gaslighted for decades and felt just unheard and felt like the government never like saw them, never like listened to their stories. And I think that's true of kind of culture, not out of any malice, but just because people don't know what happened. And it was monstrous. I mean, there was they started noticing because sheep's skin started coming off. Livestock were being born dead, or they were like developing these sores around their mouths, and then people started to get sick because they were drinking the milk. Oh
my goodness.
So but the atomic, so that's side one. Side two is yellow cake, and that's uranium miners' oral histories and stories that I was able to get from the Navajo Nation.
Okay.
And
that's what that amazing song Uranium Fever.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It was a folk song that was,
oof.
Yeah.
You have to see this piece, but it's just, again, it's like the power of Cara's work is like really the juxtaposition of having these things showing how alluring these things can be. Uranium fever, this alluring pull, to seek out uranium, but then the devastating consequences of what it is to be stepping towards something that's so awe-inspiring.
And at whose peril, like every site, every uranium mine site or test site that I researched in the process to choose the topographies, every time Indigenous people were killed, poisoned, taken advantage of. Like it's the same story over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's still really relevant, whether or not you're thinking about weapons. It's just a different version of the same story that continues to play out.
Yeah.
And kind of colonization and the connection that has with us absolutely wrecking the planet.
Yeah.
It's just in this case we opened a portal that could never be closed again, quite literally.
Yeah.
But this is from the Atomic Energy Commission video. This is from the Library of Congress, but it was just this ridiculous thing that they put out along with many other things. When they started to acknowledge that they were testing, it was like duck and cover. They were like a lot of people I talked to, including my mom, remembers doing these drills in school, like these kids here are doing, to duck and cover if they hear the bomb, or if they hear a warning that a bomb's coming, which of course that wouldn't protect you at all from the radiation. Bert the Turtle was the little spokes character behind that.
Wow.
This is the Trinity test, the first ever in New Mexico. And this is the site. There's one of the topographies. In fact, the one on the very top, the highest one, is the Trinity site.
Okay, amazing.
So that's the Nevada test site. That gives you a sense of how much you can kind of see the craters there.
Whew. Wow.
And a lot of these places, of course, you can't go to. You can't just go and visit. So that gets into an interesting thing about who controls our history, who controls the images, what is fair for us to know, and how can we know it. So I can go there, or I can go and I can make this three-dimensional topography of the site. Google is a company, a very wealthy company, that's photographed every square inch of the planet.
Yeah.
But do they own those images that tell some truth?
Yeah.
you know, we're still using Google Satellite to figure out where the Russians are working on uranium enrichment
Mhm.
or weapons testing. We still do that to this day. But
Mhm.
so where is it a commodity, and where is it an owned image, and where is it part of our,
Where can it be shared?
yeah,
How can it be shared with
yeah.
us?
So I'm getting into some of that sticky stuff with
Very
this.
interesting.
Here's the kind of Google
Wow.
satellite view.
Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap, this is also these incredible photos of soldiers watching it when they are clearly in harm's way.
And civilians were
and
invited to go
civilians.
see it. They would have cocktail parties in Las Vegas and watch the bomb. I mean, it was crazy.
It's just really interesting. It really is.
There's
This is her.
there's
She's
Miss
amazing to
Atomic
me.
Bomb.
How
She was
fabulous.
she was a cocktail waitress in Vegas. So that was
Ah,
the energy at that time, you know.
Yeah.
Somebody made this quite in poor taste when they wrapped up one of the
wow.
secret operations.
Wow.
That's fallout burns on horses.
Oh, wow. That's the piece you're talking about, the hot milk field.
Yeah.
That's in our exhibition. Right?
Yeah, and you can play the record yourself and listen to it if you do visit.
Mhm. And then these are the topographical maps.
Yeah, this is just a bit about the process. So, you know, using Google Satellite, I create these 3D files that can then be cut on a CNC router. Then I cast them, then I pour them, and it gets translated from the sort of thin air technology into these very concrete forms.
It is interesting because you're like filling
That's a
the
big one.
land, and in many ways, it's like you're filling that land in that process, and then there are the actual sites. It's a really beautiful piece. It's quite it really is striking. Pardon me. I knew I would do some puns. All right, so as I'm leaving, yes, thank you for this.
Yeah.
Dr. Strangelove. Yeah. What would you like people to take away from this? And then we'll once we answer that, we'll open it up. And so if anybody has any questions, they can type into Facebook, and we'll do just one or two because we're running out of time. Yeah, if you want to share the screen. What would you like people to take away from this?
I'm just going through a couple of these other ones. This is Cape Canaveral first V2 rocket launch. Okay. Y'all, that's in Florida. And now we're still doing the same shit.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes, you know, history, you can get mired in history and wonder why we need to look back. But I think that the takeaway would be just coming back and hammering in again and again and visualizing again and again what we're doing to the planet by way of what we're doing to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, by making these sites this concrete installation, you can see the craters, you can see the mines. There's some, I hope to bring some kind of reality to it. I hope to kind of make a small monument to it so that it just raises the visibility.
Thank you. All right, so we'll stop share. Oh, there's the rock shop. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna get this. Yeah, if you stop share, and then we'll look at the Facebook and see if there's any questions. But otherwise, are you able to pull up the? You can see if there's a good question. So in my office is a rock shop. I have this lovely necklace that's plaster cast, right? Concrete.
Yes,
that's been then painted. You want to speak about some of the rocks?
Yeah. I can show some other images that I put together in that just because it's kind of funny. So the rock shop is, I will be totally honest with you all, I was recycling some art that I didn't want to have anymore. And I always had wanted to sell artwork by weight. Also rock shops, they're not so common, I guess, here. Maybe it would be more like shell and starfish kind of roadside. But in some parts of the South and in the West too, you know, you have these little roadside rock shops, and it's fossils and petrified wood. There's always slag glass, which is actually just industrial waste. A lot of it's windshields, but it's shiny and it makes people stop.
Amazing.
So I decided to reconfigure some of these cast objects that I already had, and I did like an experiment in my Mana studio, and I made it into a rock shop. And then I started to like get into how like sort of stupid it was, like to like it all fits for me. Like they're these anthropogenic objects.
Great.
They're made of concrete. They're like fast, shortcut fossils. Concrete's like the worst thing for the planet. And we're just sort of making our own little talismans and mystic objects that are sort of devoid of meaning. So me engaging in that problematic process felt like a more, I make some quite heavy doom and gloom work. So I guess the rock shop is maybe a little bit more of like a silly tongue-in-cheek corollary to all of that.
I mean, it's a perfect parallel because it's like talking about, people going out there like fake gold. And I think just like that relationship is so perfect. All right. So here's Claire Taylor. Thank you so much for sending in a question. Claire asks, Cara, what are the projections for the future regarding these test sites? Are they still dangerous? Does the radiation seep to the surrounding areas?
Hi, Claire. Claire's joining us from Utah, I assume.
Nice.
So I'm not an expert on, the radiation and the decay. Some sites are, not any longer like radioactive to the extent that it would be dangerous or harmful. Some are still kind of leaching into the groundwater. So there's that level of contamination. Others are Superfund sites that are just absolute disasters that will take years or centuries to resolve or as far as we're concerned, that's as good as never. Some of the spent fuel facilities, for example, I mean, the half-life of those spent warheads, it will be radioactive until the end of the planet. So the answer is some of all of the above.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Just such a pleasure. And I hope that you guys have a chance to come see the exhibition. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.